2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Marc Ryan here on the Zach Gelb Show today. What is good, my friends? Rolling on until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Coming up over the next 3 hours, JJ is the Lakers' man. So what does history say about NBA coaches with no coaching experience? And how will we measure his success? The real MVP of the Celtics is a piece of cake to identify. The sport, in my opinion, that is in danger of falling off the U.S. medal stand will unmask the guilty party. Former NHL enforcer James Wisniewski joins us on Stanley Cup Game 6 coming your way later on. And it might just be the most embarrassing sports stat ever. All to come on the show today. It is incredible to have you guys with us. So, let us open with the big news that came down the pike yesterday. By the way, you are not going to believe, you're not going to believe it's fascinating to consider where I'm at with this whole situation, a story that I have on J.J. Redick, a personal story I have on J.J. Redick, and I'm going to share that with you in the very, very next segment of the show. But he is the hire of the Los Angeles Lakers. And what do we make of it? How can any of us possibly know? What we do know is that this is yet again LeBron James being the general manager. And he's got a spotty record at doing that, at best. A very spotty record. Give me Russell Westbrook, not Buddy Hield. How did that work out? 6 head coaches fired, left in his wake. Paul Silas, Brennan Malone, Mike Brown, David Blatt, Luke Walton, Frank Vogel. How do you feel about that? There's only 2 coaches that he hasn't gotten fired, Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue, and LeBron James is here, and he's at it again. Is J.J. Redick the coach I would have hired? No. And I like him. I like him a lot, but the writing was on the wall here for about the last month. Adrian Wojnarowski, shams all over this thing. It was the worst kept secret in the National Basketball Association. This happened. Make no mistake about it. This happened because LeBron James is what makes the Lakers relevant. Can he still make them relevant? Who knows? But as I always say, the greats age differently, right? The greats age differently, and LeBron James certainly is that. How awkward is it that J.J. Redick is 6 months older than his star player? They did a podcast together. They're buddy-buddy. This has the same feel to me of when Kyrie Irving said, we don't really have a coach here in Brooklyn. How did that work out? Is J.J. Redick going to be able to yell at LeBron James? I think J.J. Redick from time to time has found himself to be pretty prickly, unnecessarily. He's blocked friends of mine on social media for nothing more than critical commentary that wasn't personal. There's an aura of JJ that if you can't speak to his intellectual level in the NBA, he's got no time for you, rolls his eyes at you. But I will say this, I do think he's a savant when it comes to the National Basketball Association. You listen to his podcast, The Old Man and the Three, it's impossible not to come away incredibly impressed. Very, very impressed, right? I mean, he can see things before they happen. And let's be honest about something, too. J.J. Redick is very Los Angeles. He's good-looking. I'm on camera right now. I told Ryan Botcher, I'm very sorry, Ryan, you're not working with much today. I'm going to shake what my mama gave me to the best of my ability. Hello to all the good folks out there. But I'm no J.J. Redick. You're not exactly working with much here. J.J. Redick is an incredibly sharp dresser. He's very stylish. He's very L.A., Rob Pelinka gave you all the excuses. By the way, we got a sound here for you. He gave you all the excuses. When we put up a BS meter, okay, when I put my BS sniffer to the test, and I say, is Rob Pelinka being truthful to us? Okay, when he says, we're very impressed with JJ's acumen. We're very impressed with the way he sees the floor. He was a leader everywhere he's been in the NBA, in a career that spanned the Orlando Magic, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Clippers, the Sixers, the Pelicans, and the Dallas Mavericks. He's given you all the reasons why they hired him, and they're all, folks, completely and total BS that gets you this noise right here. Yeah, it's total BS. Doesn't pass the BS sniffer at all. J.J. Redick was hired because LeBron James has the Lakers by the short hairs, and they need to do whatever they want, whatever he wants. You want to really take advantage of Los Angeles? Draft Bronny James with a late first-round pick and then tell the Lakers, we're going to need 2 first-round picks for him. We're going to need 2 first-round picks because everybody knows LeBron is going to play with his son. Never have I seen a proud franchise have less leverage than what the LA Lakers have right now. And, oh, by the way, the Boston Celtics just passed them in titles. And they passed them in titles because the Lakers, for the last 10 years or so, outside of the bubble championship, have largely been a drama-filled bleep show. And the Celtics have done a lot of things correctly. Up in the next segment, the MVP of the Celtics is very, very easy for me to identify. Very, very easy to identify. So, from me to you, what makes this move successful? How do we define success in this era for J.J. Redick as head man of the Lakers? We throw it out to you guys at 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. On Twitter, you can get to us at INF Sportsnet. You can get to me on Twitter as well, at Marc Ryan on Air. That's at MARC Ryan on Air. Facebook.com/INF Sportsnet. And listen live, infinitysportsnet.com. How in the hell do you define success for J.J. Redick in this role? Here's what I'll tell you. If it's judged on the LeBron era, it's not going to be successful. I mean, I almost wonder to myself why JJ's taken this role, because he's walking into an unwinnable proposition. What is success here? It's title or bust on a team that can't win the title, doesn't have the pieces to win the title. LeBron James's best friend, right? Like, what exactly is he walking into? You know, J.J. Redick is a very, very smart guy, but I'm not able to identify how the marker of success is reached here. Can you? I mean, I can't see it at all. They lose in the first round of the playoffs, right? They're hopeful that they might be able to be a player in the Trae Young sweepstakes, but even he plays no defense. When I spell out the name Trae and Young, no D is anywhere to be found. So might they get more firepower? Might they be able to conceptualize something? I suppose that could happen. But unless we're talking championships with LeBron, this to me could very well be a big nothing burger. You know, Jeannie Buss and company have said we're excited to have our man for the next 10 years. He's GQ. He's good looking. They feel like he could be the next Pat Riley. But we really have no clue whatsoever if that's going to be the case. You know, the track record of coaches hired with no experience whatsoever, how shall we say, is spotty at best. This has happened just 13 times since 1990. Just 4% of all NBA coaching hires since 1990 have been guys with no coaching experience like J.J. Redick. 55% of the hires since 1990 have gone to coaches who already have NBA head coaching experiences, right? Then we look at this. Between 1990 and 2010, 64% of all NBA head coaches had played in the NBA. Since then, it's only 44% of the time. Of the previous 12 head coaches with no prior experience, the only two real hits are Steve Kerr and Larry Bird. Steve Kerr, you don't need me to tell you about. Larry Bird made three consecutive Eastern Conference Finals. The rest, oh boy. Steve Nash, Derek Fisher, Jason Kidd, Mark Jackson, Vinny Del Negro. I forgot about the Vinny Del Negro experience. Isaiah Thomas, M.L. Carr, Quinn Buckner, Dan Issel. I mean, this is what happens when you swing for the fence and an arrogant owner thinks, you know what? I'm seeing something out there that nobody else can see. I'm seeing the brilliance of J.J. Redick. Seems like a smart dude. Seems like he knows what he's doing. If nothing else, what we love about it in our business is they're going to be incredibly interesting. Either they're going to be much better there than expected, or this is going to be a complete and total dumpster fire. And then you have the jealousy component. Caitlin Clark has bared witness to that. She's got everybody in the WNBA charter flights. She's got them more money than they ever have. She's increased the ratings by 136% this year. But still, elbow to the ground like nobody's business. Everyone is quick to tell you that it's not about one player, even though it clearly is. J.J. Redick already has the same thing going on in the NBA. Former NBA head coach George Karl, quote, J.J. Redick would bring shrewd coaching insights to the Lakers and a proven track record from his years as an assistant and head coach at all levels of the sport. Sounds like just a perfect fit for a team with championship or bust expectations every year. And then he posts a GIF of like a tire fire. George Karl dripping with sarcasm here, shrewd insights from his years as an assistant coach. He doesn't like that this is happening. He doesn't like that J.J. Redick is passing up him and all of his buddies who are clamoring for an opportunity with no head coaching experience whatsoever. This is yet another example, folks, of how life isn't fair. Yet another example of that. Any of us who work in sports have been passed over for gigs by unfair circumstances, right? This is just another example of that. I can't tell you, there's been 2 or 3 opportunities I really wanted in my career. And, I was applying as the out-of-market guy, and I was passed over for somebody part-time that was in market that everyone was really hoping just succeeds, and kind of the little engine that could feel good story. And, you can't overcome that sometimes, right? I applaud being bold. This is certainly bold. I applaud being aggressive. But is this aggressive or is this reckless? That is the million-dollar question. 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. Michael Samter, what makes this move successful for the Lakers? I almost feel like this is mission impossible for JJ. I think only a title run makes it successful. And I don't necessarily see that title run coming in the last 1, 2, or 3 years of the LeBron James era.
The only way I can see this actually being successful, because like you said at the very top, we don't know. We don't know if he's going to be a good coach or not. We just know that he's inexperienced. But here's what I can tell you. Nick Nurse, his first year as a coach for the Raptors, he won a title. Steve Kerr, his first year as a coach for the Warriors, he won a title. And Steve Kerr came out of the booth as well, just like J.J. Redick, with no coaching experience. So we've seen it before where a guy comes out of nowhere. We know nothing about the guy. And we've seen it even when guys come out of a broadcast booth and they can be successful. We've seen Steve Nash fail and other guys fail. It doesn't mean that J.J. Redick will fail. If you're smart enough, if you know how to manage talent, and you have a good enough staff around you, you can succeed. And so for me, I don't look at it as a bad hire until I know whether or not J.J. Redick is a bad coach. But I've seen enough instances of rookie head coaches having success, winning titles in the past decade, where it's possible that it could work. So I'm not out on this yet. I'm just it's risky, but if you really believe in J.J. Redick, if you really believe in what he's saying and you think he's that smart and he knows LeBron and he understands how to run an offense and manage players, then why not? How is he any worse than, no offense to James Borrego, but how is he worse than James Borrego? Borrego might be a great basketball mind, but is he really the coach of LeBron James and Anthony Davis? I don't know. So it seems like it's a risk, but it seems like it could work.
Michael, a couple of points there, and I like what you said. I remember you brought me back to, I got started in this career by buying my own show. I had a brokered show in Orlando, Florida. This ties into a story that I'll tell you in the next segment. But I said to the program director, how do I become full-time? How do I go from paying you to you paying me to do a show? And he said, Marc, you don't get your start in Orlando. That's not what you do. And he was right, and I ended up moving way down in market, and I got started in the Florida Panhandle, right? That's where I went from there. Don't you think coaches are saying that about J.J. Redick? You don't get your coaching start with the creme de la creme position with no coaching experience whatsoever. This is a prototypical example of a franchise that doesn't know what they're doing, yet again, not knowing what they're doing. But to your point, and this is really, really interesting, of the 12 coaches, keep in mind, 30 teams in the NBA, right? More than half of them, 53%, make the playoffs every single year. The 12 coaches that were hired since 1990 without any head coaching experience in the NBA made the playoffs 68% of the time. 68%. In a typical year, teams make 53% of the teams make the playoffs. Those guys made the playoffs 68% of the time. I think that's very interesting. Does it bode well for J.J. Redick? We will soon see. Guys, are you wearing socks? Because if you are, I've got a story up next that's going to blow them off. A personal story with the Lakers' new man, J.J. Redick. My name is Marc Ryan. Great to be with you here in for Zach Gelb on the all-new Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
J.J. Redick and Cole and Team USA. And I remember Cole couldn't stand J.J. Redick. The moral of the story is Cole took it personal against J.J. Redick in practice because he got tired of Coach K kept talking about J.J. Redick, right? Cole took it very, very personal to the point where he was running through screens in practice. He was denying J.J. the ball. He was fouling the out J.J. I'm like, damn, why are you treating a young boy like that? I'm like, what's the problem?
That's exactly how he was.
What's the problem? No, Coach K keep talking about this. He come up here to do something. This. I'm gonna show you today. This. Let JJ Redick score in practice. Yo, that's crazy.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
It's the Zach Gelb Show. Marc Ryan in for Zach. Alongside Michael Samter, Ryan Botcher, the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Great to have you guys with us. Carmelo Anthony on how Kobe hated J.J. Redick. It sounded a lot like Jordan and Tony Kukoc, didn't it? Like you don't like the guy with the silver spoon, and now there's a bunch of George Karls in the world not liking the guy with the silver spoon, J.J. Redick. So, guys, I've got a story for you about J.J. Redick, a personal story that you're not going to believe. Like, this is the greatest example you've ever heard of the tiny world, the small world that we live in. So in college at the University of Florida, I was in a punk band, a ska band. The band was pretty good. We got to play on the Warped Tour and travel around the country and main stage in front of thousands of people. At one point, like our band, not so humble brag, we had the number 1 most downloaded ska song in Florida and number 7 nationwide. And so I played trombone in the punk band, right? So lo and behold, a high school in Virginia for their senior day paid us $3,000 to come and play at their high school senior day. And I'm like, oh, man, that's interesting. That's fascinating. It's going to be a fun roadie from Gainesville, Florida to Roanoke, Virginia. Well, whose high school was that? J.J. Redick. Then next level, whose senior day was that? J.J. Redick. Of course, loving sports, I knew who J.J. Redick was. I knew he was Duke-bound. I knew he was the guy that everyone was talking about coming out of high school, McDonald's All-American, Larry Bird-esque shooter. And then there I am in their gymnasium on a stage with everyone in the school there, J.J. Redick in the front row, and he's in high school, and I'm in college, and I'm jamming out in my punk band. And like J.J. Redick is like moshing to our music. Can you believe that? So then, I'm like, well, that's a really cool experience. And I'm watching like their superlative awards. They got it on the big screen. Most likely to be famous is who? Of course, J.J. Redick. Now, I don't think anyone could have imagined that he would be this famous, right? That like he would be the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. But he was a McDonald's All-American kid that people were talking about that was going to Duke. So fast forward 4 years, okay? I'm getting my radio start. I'm a rookie host in Orlando, Florida. J.J. Redick, drafted by the Orlando Magic, is a rookie shooting guard for the Orlando Magic. And I am covering the Orlando Magic Summer League. They had the Summer League then every single year in Orlando. And, I go to JJ and then I'm covering him in the regular season. I go up to him in the locker room and I reintroduce myself. And darn if he didn't remember every single last detail. He said to me, "You were the dude in the beanie, right?" And I was the dude in the beanie. I don't know why I was wearing a beanie. It was 90 plus degrees, especially inside a gymnasium in Roanoke, Virginia, in the early 2000s. I have no idea why I was wearing a beanie, but I was. And he remembered. He remembered the band. He remembered liking the band. He remembered his senior day. He remembered us being on stage. And isn't that the quintessential example of how small our world is. Man, like, it's just, I still can't believe that. And now this dude who I played for at his senior day is the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Have you ever heard of a smaller world than that? Well, what do you say we do a little ditty that we call News Brief on a Friday, where we bounce around the sports world. We bounce around the sports world to bring you some of the greatest and hottest audio. Here we go.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Let us begin with Brian Baldinger with an amazing Willie Mays story. This comes from the Anthony Gargano Show.
I played college football with Larry Doby Jr. Father, Larry Doby Sr., first black player in the American League. So in 1984, it's the summer, it's like this time. Larry calls and says, hey, I'm taking the Yankees Old Timers Day today. My dad is playing. So Larry Doby Sr. is sitting there in front of his locker talking to Willie Mays. So Willie Mays sees me, and he looks at me, and he goes, yo, I used to look like you when I was young. So he says to me, he goes, hey, Brian, you like to drink beer? I go, yeah, of course. He goes, right behind me, we've got all the Coors Light on tap. You can drink. He goes, I'll make a deal with you. You can drink all the beer you want if you'll do me a favor. I said, yeah, of course, Mr. Mays. He goes, well, they've asked me to sign these 100 baseballs, but I got a tea time I really want to get to. How about if I sign the first baseball and you sign the other 99 baseballs? So I said, You got it. I signed 99 Willie Mays baseball.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
No, wait a minute. Guys, so did he sign his name or Willie Mays' name?
It sounds like he signed Willie's name. So there's a bunch of Willie Mays signed baseballs floating around out there that aren't actually Willie Mays. It's Brian Baldinger.
You know what, man? That industry's so corrupt. I know we got onsides or offsides coming up later. I strikingly don't mind that at all. Gentlemen, do you mind? I got another story based on that I have to share with you. This is turning into story time with Uncle Marc. Everybody gather around, listen to the story. So this is also in college. It's amazing I survived, gentlemen. Amazing I survived. Plant City was his home of the Cincinnati Reds in spring training. And primetime Deion Sanders played for the team. Lou Piniella was the manager. And I happened to notice that they had like an 80-something-year-old security guard in the players' parking lot. And he wasn't really paying attention to the people he was letting in. There's a Ferrari, there's a Lamborghini. He's just kind of waving them by. And I said to my two college buds, Pat and Steve, I said, guys, I've got an idea. Certainly if he's not really paying attention to a Lamborghini and a Ferrari, he's going to pay no attention to a beater 86 Honda Civic either, right? He's not going to pay any attention to that. So there we go, going to drive into the players' parking lot of the Cincinnati Reds in spring training. We wave as we're driving into the parking lot. The old security guard gives a little quizzical look, like, huh? I'm used to seeing much nicer cars than this, but then waved us right on through. So there we are. We're inside the players' parking lot at the clubhouse of the Cincinnati Reds. Ladies and gentlemen, I pray that the statute of limitations on this has expired. My friends and I then proceed to walk inside the clubhouse. No business being there. We're not in media. We're not anything. Walk in media. We walk by Lou Piniella. What's up? We walk by Primetime Sanders. We say, what's up? How you doing? My friends at this point are saying, Marc, can we get the hell out of here? Please, I don't want to get arrested. Can we please get the hell out of here? And I was cool as a cucumber, man. I've been doing shady stuff like that my entire life. So then we go to leave. This is where it gets interesting. The cars before us leaving, they're all rolling down their windows. They're all signing autographs for the people that are lined up. Here I am. I'm sandwiched in between a Vet and a Porsche. Okay, and here is my Honda Civic. So we go to leave, and of course we stop the car, and my friends are like, what are you doing? What are you going to sign? They're like, wait, who are you? What are you going to sign? So I kid you not, there are 30 baseballs out there somewhere that say Marc Ryan on them, okay? The difference between Baldinger and I is at least I signed my own name, okay? But there's kids out there that have pennants, baseballs, cards. I told him I don't have a baseball card yet. I'm sorry. Give me time. I'm young. Give me time. I'm growing. I'm maturing. You got a bunch of baseballs with Marc Ryan's signature on it. How about that? Can I get an amen, ladies and gentlemen?
Brother.
Are you feeling me? Are you feeling me? I still don't know how I pulled that off, but somehow we did. Let's get to another one. Kelly Stafford. Boy, how shady is this? The wife of Matt Stafford. You know, we've all been in that situation where you wanted a commitment and she did not. Or she wanted a commitment and you did not. Well, Kelly Stafford, let's just say, had a very interesting strategy to get Matt Stafford to commit to her when they both were students at the University of Georgia. Check this out.
Anyways, long story short, it wasn't that cute of a relationship at first. I hated him. I loved him. I dated the backup to piss him off, which worked.
Yes.
He was like,
that'll do it.
He was the bad boy, too. Like, Matthew's so sweet and Southern gentleman and all that stuff. And the backup was the complete opposite.
Yep.
Ooh, and it upset him. So they lived in the same dorm because athletes lived in the same dorm, and he would see my car there. And so at one point, he, like, waited and followed me out and got in my car and wouldn't get out.
Stop.
And he was
like, this is so hot.
I was like, this is amazing. It's working.
Yeah.
I was get out of my car and he was like, he's not right for you. And I was like, what? You can't tell me that.
All right, we got to go around the room here. Actually, we got to do this coming up next. Okay, is that behavior onsides or offsides? Dating somebody for the sole purpose of making the one that you really want jealous. Onsides or offsides? Ryan Botcher better be willing to answer that. Michael Samter better be willing to answer that. I will be willing to answer that. That is coming your way next. Now it's time for a sports update with my guy, Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Marc, NFL. The 49ers announced they've signed first-round pick Ricky Pearsall to a 4-year deal. All of the draft picks made by the reigning NFC champions are now under contract. NBA, the Celtics are throwing a party in Boston, and before they got it started, while talking with Brian Scalabrine, Jason Tatum with a little shot at the team they sent home in the first round.
You guys been on a lot of trips to Miami, a lot of hard-fought trips to Miami. Was this one a little sweeter taking that trip down?
They always easy.
This comes hours after winning the title the Celtics were seen celebrating down in Miami. College football, Brent Venables and Oklahoma come to terms on a new 6-year deal worth nearly $46 million. NHL, the Stanley Cup Final continues tonight. Panthers at Oilers. Edmonton is looking to force a Game 7. Just one baseball game in progress. The Mets jumped all over Shota Imanaga early. They lead the Cubs 8-1 in the top of the 4th inning. The Mets threatening. They have the bases loaded, nobody out. JD Martinez, Francisco Alvarez, and Brandon Nimmo all with a home run already in this one. Imanaga taken out of the game already. Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. Tom Kim is your leader. He has a 2-stroke lead. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The fun continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
It's the Zach Gelb Show. Marc Ryan in for Zach here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. It's time for Ask the Pros Part 1, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Marc Ryan on Air. That's at MARC Ryan on Air, using the hashtag AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we just might answer your question. Okay, so tweet us questions right now using those two hashtags at INF Sportsnet or at Marc Ryan on Air, and we'll see if we get to your question later. If we do, your name will be heard on 300-plus stations across the country. Sirius XM Channel 158. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Gentlemen, there is no more hiding that is possible from you. Kelly Stafford dates the backup quarterback because she wanted to be Matt Stafford's girl. He wanted to play the field, right? He wanted to be making first down passes off the field as well. Matt Stafford did. And Kelly Stafford wasn't having it, so what does she do? She dates backup Georgia quarterback Joe Cox. She's using Joe Cox. Her sole purpose in dating him is to make Matthew jealous. Mission successful. Is the saying, all that's fair in love and war, true? Or is that shady business by one Kelly Stafford? Onsides or offsides, her behavior. Michael Samter, what say you?
I think her behavior is onside. Her discussing it on a nationally publicized and distributed radio podcast is offside. If you want to date the backup, fine, go for it. You want to talk about it with your friends and embarrass your husband, offside.
How is it onside to do that? You know, like, think about what she's doing. You know, she's not only acting in a way she's not acting genuinely, right? Like, she's using the backup quarterback. She has no real genuine interest in him. You heard her say, like, Matthew's a Southern gentleman. This guy was the total opposite of that. So I'm picturing like a Johnny Manziel type personality. She's using him. She's guilty of behaviors that's inciting. That's onsides? Really? Ryan Botcher, what say you? Onsides or offsides? I'm wondering if I'm going to be the lone man on an island here. What do you say, Ryan?
It's offsides. There's no doubt in my mind that this is just wrong. It's not. It's if it wasn't stated publicly, nobody would care. But now that we know about it, and she's bragging about it, and the co-host, I don't know who that is, but her being like, yeah, good for you. We love that when they get angry. It's offsides, all of it.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is shady, man. And it makes me feel for Matthew Stafford because what I'm thinking is, what other moves is she pulling just to be manipulative, right? Like, what else is she doing? It is crazy, though, like how love makes us do really dumb stuff. Like, don't ever do things out of desperation, okay? The Lakers, I think, just hired J.J. Redick out of desperation because they don't want to lose LeBron James. So let's hire LeBron James. Let's hire the guy LeBron James wants. You know, the worst thing you've ever done out of desperation. I once drove across the country to try to talk a girl out of breaking up with me who already had. Don't drive across the country to talk a girl out of breaking up with you who already had. Okay? Don't do things out of desperation. These are things that I wish I could tell to my slightly younger self. I didn't know it then. I do know it now. Come on, Matthew. Come on, buddy. We're looking out for you. Looking out for you. She's using you. She's manipulating you. I can't. You're right, though, Michael. You're right. I cannot get over that she shared that and that she shared that publicly. That's incredible to me, man. Absolutely incredible. Look, guys, the Boston Celtics are having their parade today. By all accounts, it looked like a pretty weak atmosphere for a parade. Jason Tatum has already been throwing shade at Miami. You've heard that clip on the show today. And it's interesting to me because Jaylen Brown wins the NBA Finals MVP. It was the first time in 11 years that the player that won the Finals MVP was not on any of the all-NBA teams, not on a single one. And you know why that happened? And you know why that's totally okay? Because the MVP of the Boston Celtics is Brad Stevens. Now, I don't quite understand how he's pulled off what he has, okay? Brad Stevens and I are in the same, let's call it the same age quadrant. You know, we're close in age. When I look at what's on his resume versus what's on mine, I suddenly feel not so good about myself. Incidentally, my last name in Italian means little grapes, which doesn't make me insecure at all. Doesn't at all. Especially when I compare my resume to that of one Brad Stevens. He is the MVP of this team. He is the MVP of this league for all I'm concerned with. Okay? Consider that the two teams that made the NBA Finals, the Mavericks and the Celtics, made major moves to bolster their roster, bolster their front courts, while everyone else was sitting idly by. And Brad Stevens, with these moves, one of these is like the heist of the century. I've been watching this Netflix special, How to Rob a Bank. Okay, it's a horrendously irresponsible title, but I got to admit the tease worked on me. I'm watching it, and I was wondering if the bank robber in this case was in fact Brad Stevens. Explain this to me. In the Kristaps Porzingis trade, they give up Marcus Smart to get Kristaps Porzingis. Now, wouldn't you think to get a player of Kristaps Porzingis' caliber, you'd have to give up more than that? No, not at all. The Celtics give up Danilo Gallinari, who wasn't playing, Mike Muscala, who wasn't playing, sounds like a seafood anyway, and a second-round pick. Okay? In addition, what they get are 2 first-round picks. So they essentially receive Kristaps Porzingis 2 first-round picks for Marcus Smart and a second-round pick. That just might be the ultimate heist of the century. Then you have the fact that to get Drew Holiday, who all Drew, that song, that song, All I Do Is Win, 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 no matter what, that was written about Drew Holiday. He goes to Milwaukee, first year, they win the NBA championship. He goes to Boston, first year, they win the NBA championship. And I'll tell you what, they gave up value to get Drew Holiday, but darn if that wasn't worth it. Malcolm Brogdon, a good 16 to 18 point per game scorer. Robert Williams, an athletic big in their front court. 2 first-round picks, but one of them doesn't come until 2029, so really, who cares? They give up that. They get Drew Holiday. They get the glue guy. They get the guy, Drew Holiday, where you say the BS stops right here. All of the coasting through games that Jalen and Jason were guilty of, that BS stops on the desk of Drew Holiday. The effort, the intensity is infectious. And you know what? I thought about this today, guys, because I was in my new building, Odyssey Station 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit, and our VP of sales said to me, Mark, I got to tell you, we just love your energy. I thought of Drew Holiday. How can you not love the energy? And I just said to myself, well, if I'm bringing Drew Holiday-like energy up in here, I'm feeling really good about myself. All that guy does is win. The effort, the intensity is all there. Now, the sidebar on the Boston Celtics that I think is really, really interesting is this. Sports are now going against dynasties, right? The NBA is instituting this luxury tax system where you have the highest level of penalty if your team's salary is over $183 million. You have the next level of penalty if your team's salary is over $165 million. And they're doing this with the sole purpose being to prevent what the Celtics just did. You got two guys that have made all NBA teams in their past, Jalen and Jason. And then what do? You add 2 stars to that mix. Well, no kidding. They're going to have the best record in the NBA, right? Here's what doesn't make sense to me. Dynasties draw eyeballs. We don't have to like them, okay? The Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, he ruined the NBA. We couldn't take our eyes off of it every single time he was on TV. Dynasties are great for sports. And yet here we are in the NBA, 7 different champions in the last 7 different seasons. We're doing everything we can to prevent dynasties when the ratings history tells us that dynasties win, that dynasties are a big hit. So why then would we move away from dynasties in the National Basketball Association? I don't quite understand that. The NFL is trying to move away from dynasties. Worst team gets the best pick. I think that's been asked backwards from the very beginning. I'd randomize the whole draft. Well, Mark, then you could have the best team get the first pick. Okay. Well, in society, you're rewarded for doing good work. Who rewards you if you suck? Why should a team who sucks be rewarded for sucking? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we moving away from dynasties when I ask you for your fondest memories of the NBA, what are you going to tell me? You might tell me about the 90s Chicago Bulls dynasty. You might tell me about Tim Duncan's Spurs dynasty. If you're younger, you might tell me about the Heatles mini dynasty. You might tell me about the Lakers and Celtics of the 1980s dynasty. Why in the hell are we moving away? Are we creating rules, crafting rules whose sole purpose it is to move us away from dynasties when dynasties bring us eyeballs, right? I, for the life of me, don't understand this. I think Boston is going to be able to keep these guys, and I think Boston is going to be your title favorite next year. In the meantime, their MVP, Brad Stevens, was a national runner-up twice at Butler, conference finals 2017, 2018, and 2020. And then all he does as a Celtics GM is make the NBA finals, go to the conference finals, and then win the NBA title. So what are we looking at for next year? Early look for next season. What are we looking at? Our 1 through 4. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think 3 of the 4 best teams are in the West. I like the trade yesterday. The Thunder made getting Caruso for Giddey. The question is, which of the 3 powers, Wolves, Thunder, or Nuggets, are not going to make the Western Conference Championship Series, the Western Conference Finals? As you know, the Mavs won the West this year. So I've got Celtics 1, Nuggets 2, Thunder 3, Timberwolves 4 as we look ahead to next season. But honestly, I think the Celtics are the team to beat. And I think one of the most underrated reasons why is that they coast through the Eastern Conference playoffs, whereas the West is a bloodbath. By the time you make it out of that, not even you are left standing. Meanwhile, the Celtics have been on coast from the word go. All right, up next on the show, we're going to bring on a 12-year NHL veteran, James Wisniewski. He was an enforcer. So how in the heck has Edmonton made its way back in this series? Game 6 coming your way tonight. My name is Marc Ryan, in for Zach Gelb, right here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Marc Ryan in for Zach Gelb on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Awesome to have you guys with us. Well, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, and I laugh because we didn't expect to be here, right? I mean, the NHL is a sport. Baseball, this has happened one time. It's never happened in the NBA. In the NHL, we've seen 4 times where a team down 0-3 has come back to win it. So why in the NHL and not in the other sports? And how in Hades has Edmonton clawed their way back into this bad boy? Well, joining us right now is somebody I had the privilege of meeting at a BMW charity golf classic a couple of years ago. I was intimidated by him then. I'm intimidated by him now. He was a 12-year NHL vet. Ironically, we're very similar in terms of height and weight, but that's where the similarity ends. He's the enforcer, man. He's the bad boy. He is the bouncer. Played for the Blackhawks, the Ducks, the Islanders, the Canadiens, the Blue Jackets, and the Hurricanes as well. And he joins us right now on the show, James Wisniewski, here on the Zach Gelb Show, the all-new Infinity Sports Network. James, so good to catch up with you, my man. What's good? It's been a minute.
What's happening, Mark? Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on here, my friend.
Always good to be on with you, sir. Always good. So can you bring us in to how Edmonton has clawed their way back in this series? Like, what are they doing now that they weren't doing when Florida was genuinely dominating them?
Well, first off, I would probably say the one main thing that you could see why Edmonton has clawed back. Well, I'd say 2 main reasons. For one, my old stallmate for 4 years, Sergei Bobrovsky. The first game, was obviously dominated by the Oilers, and he stole that game for Florida. And then then he just continued that. And then when I think Connor McDavid decided that he's like, hey, I got to take this, put this on my shoulders myself and try to claw us back myself, with him getting 8 points in the last 2 games. And Sergei's had a little bit of tough time in the last 2 games. I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. Like, Connor's taken over and Sergei's left his foot off the gas a little bit. When Sergei's on, when Bob's on, you can't beat him. So I think that's the biggest difference you could see from the first 3 games in the last 2.
James Wisniewski joining us, 12-year NHL veteran defenseman, enforcer. What is it about the nature of hockey that has lent itself to these kind of comebacks being possible, where we've never seen it in the NBA, and much to my dismay, the only time it ever happened in Major League Baseball is when the Red Sox, pronounced that way intentionally, came back from 0-3 down to beat my beloved Yankees. What is it about that sport that makes it more possible here?
I think that's just the beauty of hockey. I think even Charles Barkley even said it best recently, and he said that's why he loves hockey, is that there's no teams, you can't create like powerhouse teams. The salary cap's, in favor of that, but you look at basketball, when LeBron went down to Miami with Dwayne Wade and those guys, and they started, all these teams start creating these superpower teams. So it's impossible to do that in hockey because, for one, 5 guys in one basketball team can make, or actually 2 guys can make the whole team. In hockey, you have to change lines. There's 4 lines. So no matter what's happening, you can obviously switch. Like if you run into a hot goalie, you can't score on him. So I mean, that's like when I was with the Ducks, we had Jonas Hiller, and Hiller played out of his mind the first, we lost in Game 7, second round to Detroit in 2010. And so it kind of just happened, or 2009. It just happens that way, where there's 4 lines, there's 12 guys, 12 forwards, 6D, and a goalie going constantly, switching off every 45 seconds. So that is possible that you can actually come back, because everybody's been part of a 4-game winning streak, and in baseball you can, I got my stud pitcher, you can just shut him down. Basketball, you have 2 guys pretty much make the whole team. And so that's just the beauty of hockey, is just constant turnovers of pucks, and the only way to score is usually off somebody's mistake.
Can you share a story, James, as a 12-year NHL vet James Wisniewski joins us here on the Zach Gelb Show, the all-new Infinity Sports Network, a story of a guy who tried to get under your skin when you played? Does one come to mind? What were the antics? You might tell me that was your job with the other team, but certainly a time or 3 that happened to you as well. What do you remember?
I actually, we played Boston in the first round. I was in Montreal in 2010, and Brad Marchand was like, he was a little younger. I don't know how many years he was in the league that time, like 2 or 3, or maybe 2 years. And we just went absolutely bananas at each other. So it was just constant back and forth. And it was just kind of funny because I used to play with a white stick. And then a couple of years later, we were in Miami at the All-Star break. We ran into each other at a club, and we were talking, laughing about it. He told me one of the funniest things is, like, during a TV timeout, and obviously Marchand had the big nose. We all know that. And not like, it's not a big surprise. I held my stick out like by the side of my face and just started skating up and down their bench, being like, "Oh, look at me, I'm Brad Marchand," and like having my white stick stick out of my face and look like it had a huge nose, and their whole bench was like laughing and stuff like that. So that was just kind of like one of the funny times. You just banter, kind of gets, you start, like, when somebody makes fun of you, you actually start laughing. You're like, "Oh, that was a good one." So
that's interesting, James, because that's interesting because it sounds like you're describing an environment where it very much only exists on the ice, and off the ice you're cool. And I think that's something that I think that's something that fans would be fascinated by. You consider, James, that like in any other sport, if there's a fight, it's a really big deal. But in hockey, like little fisticuffs, little skirmishes happen literally in every single game. What is it about that sport that is so frustrating, that really cracks your coconuts when you're playing? What is so angering about it?
It's just people always say, "Why is there fights in hockey?" And I always try to the best way to explain to people why there's fights in sports. If you ever look at any sport that there's a weapon in your hand. So hockey, you have your stick. When you slash people, cross-check them, I mean, that hurts. So it's a weapon, so you have to kind of regulate yourself. Baseball, the pitchers throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball at your head. You got to regulate yourself. And then you have lacrosse, same thing, stick, there's fights. Football, you could say your body's the weapon, but there's no other weapon in your hand. Basketball, no other weapons. That's why you see them fight like little girls. So there's really no other sport that when there's a weapon in your hand, there's always going to be fighting. So you have to police yourself because of what you could do. I mean, you could ask anybody who's broke people's fingers, wrists, feet with slashes, or cross-check people in the face, knock their teeth out, or stuff like that. And then you're just going to have to answer the bell and just kind of that warrior, gladiator mentality.
That's fascinating to me. I love hearing the inner workings of that. James Wisniewski joining us, 12-year NHL veteran. So this series now 3-2. Do you believe, is this something where the Florida Panthers just eventually close this out? It probably ends tonight. Or do you genuinely feel like a switch has been flipped, that momentum, which I always argue is a very real thing in sports, has flipped firmly in the corner of Edmonton?
See, I'm with you. I believe in this momentum as well. And to be honest, that place is going to be rocking. Like it's unless you've ever been to like a real life playoff, like whatever type of atmosphere, it's kind of like you can't even describe it unless you've ever been there. You won't be able to hear yourself think the first 5-10 minutes of that game. So really what Florida has to do, they're going to have to weather the storm right away. And so they're just going to, try not to make big mistakes. They're going to feel like they're skating uphill and Edmonton's skating downhill because of the momentum and the adrenaline that they're going to have with the fans. So, but again, with the way the league is kind of reffed and officiated with a lot of power plays, it's going to come down to special teams. I hate to say it, but the game 6 is going to come down to special teams, and whoever wins the special teams battle will win the game.
James Wisniewski joining us here on the show. Can you explain the country of Canada's complete inability to win their own game, James? This is crazy. Now, James, I haven't told you about this. You and I, let's have a brief off-air conversation on air real quick. James, I just moved. I met you in the Carolinas. I just moved to Detroit, Michigan. I got a job with one of the best sports stations in the country. 97 won the ticket in Detroit. And I've been here now 2 months.
You're my hometown. Canton, Michigan.
I'm doing my research on you, Canton, Michigan. I'm like, wait a minute. I've heard of that town. Suburb of Detroit. There you go.
That's right.
There you go, James. It's incredible to be here. You realize when you are here, and you were even closer, that I'm less than 30 minutes away from Canada, being right here. It blows my mind that in a sport with 32 teams, and Canada has 7 of them, it's their sports. They should, by the math, win a trophy every 4 to 5 years. 31 years? No trophies? I don't buy coincidences.
Montreal? Is that what it was? LA, Montreal?
Yes. 31 years. So, James, what's the theory there? Your opinion, your best guess.
Oh man. See, I'm a very patriotic person, so I love seeing this. The funny thing about that, Mark, I was just in LA on Wednesday, and I was talking to this guy, and we were just, he's a big Kings fan. He's like, I don't care. I just want Florida to win. He's like, F the Canadian teams. I don't ever want to see them win a Stanley Cup ever again. I'm like, geez. So it's like almost like putting it to be like, it's like a national pride now. Like everybody's rooting for Florida just so Canada doesn't get a Stanley Cup. But honestly, you would think by Toronto, how big Toronto's like being a New York Yankee. Same with like Montreal Canadiens. I don't know. I have no answer for you of how they haven't, climbed over the ledge of winning a Stanley Cup in the last 31 years.
Did you experience guys not wanting to go there? Do you think they have a style of play, that is not conducive to winning, or is it just hard to accrue talent over the border, maybe for taxes or politics or some other reason?
Honestly, I was just going to tell you, politics, the way they're living there, it's like socialism. The taxes. I mean, I remember playing in Montreal. I thought California was bad, but I was getting like 46% of my money. So 54% of your money goes to taxes.
Wow.
If you make $100, you get $46 out of 100. I mean, it's just wild. They talk about, it's free healthcare. It's not free. Obviously, it's coming out of your taxes. So anyways, but the pressure, because of if you don't perform, it's just they're all on top of you. Luckily, when I only had a small stint in Montreal, and I produced well. So I mean, I enjoyed it. You get treated like a god, but as soon as you slide a little bit, then they're calling for your head. And every single newspaper, every sports show on TV and whatnot. So it's good and bad. Like, you get treated like a god, but then you also get treated like a devil if you don't perform.
Sounds like a fun place. I always describe Canada as the country no one's afraid of. And yet I'm shocked that everyone is rooting against them. This isn't the Olympics, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't Team Canada against Team USA. There's Americans on every team in Canada. Yeah. James, your general feel for the game itself, the state of the game, your kind of State of the Union address on the NHL, how healthy is the game today as you see it?
I think it's very healthy. I kind of liked a little bit in the second half of the season. I've seen a little bit of old school hockey come back with, I think ever since the young kid in Rempe from the Rangers, when he came into the league early on, like in the beginning of the season, it kind of sparked that little heavyweight battle again, the fighting aspect of the game, because that's what people want to see. It's the one sport that's like that gladiator type atmosphere and feel, along with skill, right? You'd like to see the skill part, but you also want to see, the blood and glory and the guts and all that stuff kind of shape up every once in a while as well. I'm not really the biggest fan of playoff games getting 7-5, because I just feel like, you should be able to block a shot here and there, or I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the NBA when it's 130 to 124, when we were growing up, you were watching like the Bulls and Pistons. It was like 92 to 88. Would be a final score. It's just a little soft, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yes. But I feel like that's how society is now. It's a bunch of softies. So I think that's kind of relating into the head hits, and that's why you see a bunch more skill, because nobody's afraid to cut to the middle of the ice and get your head cut off by like a Scott Stevens. So nobody's afraid of that. So because you can't do it. So that's why you're going to see a lot more skill. There's a lot more ticky-tack calls. And, you even look at the NHL finals, all these ticky-tack calls you're like, come on, man, it's the finals. Pretty much have to, chop a guy's arm off back in the day in order to, get a slashing penalty. So, the skill is next to none. These guys are so talented and so fun to watch. But at the same time, I'd like to see them, be a little bit more, a little grittier, on the ice. Personally.
His name, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Scoring up in the NBA, don't let him play defense anymore. Scoring's up in the NFL. The chicks dig the long ball in baseball, home run or strikeout. Right. It is the general softening, the sharpening of society that is going on. And James Wisniewski has detailed it eloquently for you here today. He's a 12-year NHL veteran. As you can tell, he shoots straight, 100% accuracy. Chicago Blackhawks, Anaheim Ducks, Islanders, Canadians, Blue Jackets, Hurricanes as well. We love catching up with him. We look forward to Game 6 tonight. James, thank you so much. Always enjoy the conversation, man. Appreciate you.
You're the best, Mark. Thank you so much. Don't forget Olympian. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go. There you go. James Wisniewski, elite enforcer in the NHL over a 12-year period. believes momentum is a very real thing, believes Edmonton, it sounds like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but sounds like he thinks Edmonton can still come back and win this entire thing. It's now 3-2. A lot of times in comebacks, you expend so much energy in the comeback process that you have nothing left when it's time to get over the hump. Will Edmonton have something left tonight to force a Game 7 back in South Florida? All right, up next on the show, I am going to clearly define for you the actual and real Super Bowl class for 2024. If your team is not named in this class, they ain't winning the Super Bowl. I'm sure we're going to make a ton of friends, and we'll do it next. My name is Marc Ryan, in for Zach Gelb on the Zach Gelb Show here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
Great to have you guys with us here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. So, my friends, it is time to define the actual Super Bowl class. But before we do, there is a very clear way we are able to eliminate some teams from contention completely and totally. A very clear way we're able to do that. Number one, there's only been one quarterback in the modern era that has won the Super Bowl making more than 13% of his team's salary cap. Okay, only one who has done it. That person, that player, is Patrick Mahomes. He is the rule breaker. Last year, he won the Super Bowl with essentially you and I at wideout, right? So if your quarterback, if his cap hit is making more than 13% of the cap, which this year would equate to over $33 million, brother, if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, you are not winning the Super Bowl. Them's the rules. That's all she wrote. Who does that eliminate this year? Well, among teams that you think could potentially be contenders, Cleveland and Dallas are gonzo. You knew Dallas was gone anyway. Dallas is the same team every year. Second verse, the same as the first, a little louder and a little bit worse. So who are the viable Super Bowl contenders this year? And who can we eliminate? And moreover, if I was to task you with picking the conference championship games today, as in right now, who do you got in the thing? Here's an interesting stat for you. You know, I'm now here in Detroit. Everyone's asking, hey, do you think we can get back? Do you think we can make it back to the conference championship game? Did a little research. 58% of the time, one of the two teams makes it back to the conference championship game the next year. So in the AFC and the NFC, there's a 58% chance one of the two teams will be the same, Kansas City or Baltimore, Detroit or San Francisco. But only 9% of the time is there a Super Bowl rematch. What does that tell you? If you're Baltimore, you're going to have to beat out Kansas City. You think so? And if you're Detroit, you're going to have to get by San Francisco because the likelihood is both of you are not going to be in there. So I'm going to eliminate Dallas, right? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And they've did largely nothing in free agency, largely nothing to improve their team this year. They add Eric Kendricks, an older linebacker that collects the senior citizen discount. They lose Tyron Smith. They lose Tony Pollard, right? What's the running game going to look like for Dallas? I really think Dallas is a team not only that isn't going to be a contender next year, Dallas is a team that could slip all the way out of the playoffs next year. My team on that ilk, for that ilk in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills. They lose Stephon Diggs. I believe there's a lack of belief in Sean McDermott. And because that team never won anything, they taste victory just for a small time period with Sean McDermott. You talk to any Buffalo Bills fan, they don't want to get rid of Sean McDermott. They want to give him a lifetime contract. He is preventing you from taking the next step. You have to understand that. Give him a pat on the back for bringing you out of the gutter, but realize that an innovative offensive mind is needed in order to claim the Lombardi, and he is not that. So I looked at the Football Power Index, how much of these teams improved or gotten worse last year over this year. How about this? Top 2 teams in the league, San Francisco and Baltimore, are all projected to be 5 points worse now than they were a season ago. 5 points worse. Big question mark for the 49ers, the offensive line. They didn't address that in free agency at all. They add Leonard Floyd, they add Malik Collins, they add Devondre Campbell, all help on defense. How about protecting Brock Purdy? That's still the weakness of this team. Baltimore, the big question for me remains, I've still yet to see it, has Lamar Jackson evolved enough as a passer to be able to beat elite teams in the most crucial situations? The fact that he's won 2 MVP awards, has as many MVP awards as he does playoff wins, that's a crime. As a matter of fact, Lamar Jackson has shown you that what you do in the regular season is actually not valuable, because when the games are valuable, he's nowhere to be found. The Baltimore Ravens averaged 28 points a game last year in the regular season. They put up 10 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Make it make sense. So, my conference championship games next year, the actual Super Bowl class as I see it, my 1 through 4 in the NFL right now, and it works out perfectly because I've got 2 from the AFC and I've got 2 from the NFC. Number 1, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs. They add speed in the draft. They add speed in free agency. It's amazing that the NFL lets them get away with this, lets them get exactly what they want, exactly what they need, whenever they need it. Yet that is the case with the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, they add the burner from Texas, and then they add Marquise Brown. They add Irv Smith, the tight end. They give Patrick Mahomes more wide receivers. They're the number 1 seed for me. Number 2 seed, Detroit Lions. I don't know. You could say I'm making a homer pick because I live here now, I work here now. Honestly, guys, it's what I believe. This team is ready. This city is more than ready. This is the best offensive line in the NFL. You have a happy quarterback. You have a signed quarterback. You've got a bunch of guys on this team, Jameson Williams, who need to prove themselves in prove-it years. They add Kevin Zeitler on the offensive line, best O-line in the league, man, and a Jared Goff that wants to prove that he is deserving of that hefty payday, 4 years, $212 million. I've got Detroit number 2. I've got Philadelphia number 3, and I think the Eagles take a massive step up. They had more holes than Swiss cheese when we entered the offseason. But Howie Roseman, Florida Gator, their general manager, best GM in the NFL, knocked it out of the park in the NFL draft. Got the 2 best cornerbacks available, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Got great value in later round picks. Will Shipley, running back from Clemson, is a burner. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., linebacker, is a family lineage, very athletic. Then in free agency, what do? They get the best edge rusher, Bryce Huff. They bring back playmaker, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They had Saquon Barkley, top 5 running back. How do you defend a backfield featuring Barkley and Hurts? Anyone? Bueller? Fry? They're back. Their defense is back. That is going to be a very, very real contender. And then, 4th for me, the second team, the team playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'll tell you this, guys. I mean, it's incumbent upon all 3 of these teams to knock off Kansas City. This is 31 teams against 1 right now. Okay? We can't. We're not here to see a three-peat. Get out of your heads that we're going to see a three-peat. We've got to flush that idea. By the way, Detroit is about half a point better now than they were last year. Philadelphia is a full point better than they were last year. Cincinnati, 3.5 points better than they were a season ago. Easy to figure out. They didn't have Joe Burrow. Now they do. The FPI says they are the number 7 team in the NFL. That's my pick. That's my pick to be Kansas City's opposition in the AFC Championship game. If you didn't hear your team's name, I'm sorry. It's nothing personal, I promise you. It just means you're not going to be in the conference championship game. When you ask people, who do you like in the AFC conference championship game? NFC. You hear the same thing. Baltimore, Kansas City. Detroit, San Francisco. You might hear Philly, San Francisco, or Green Bay, San Francisco. But you're hearing the same teams because it's what people remember. But all you have to do is go back and study the history to know that there's it's 9 out of 10 chance that you're not going to have the same two teams back in each and every league. And in San Francisco's case, here is what's very, very interesting. If you include Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll in this statistic, because both of them still want to coach, of the 9 active coaches who have won Super Bowls, none did it after their 7th year with the team. It's never happened after year 7. Well, Kyle Shanahan is now entering year 8. Why is that the case? Do most of them get fired? Does their message lose steam after that long a period of time? What is it? But the numbers say, the stats say, that the window for San Francisco is kind of closing. May already be closed with that team, with that unit right now. Detroit, Philadelphia in the NFC, Kansas City, Cincinnati in the AFC. Those are your 2024 conference championship games. How you feeling about it? How you feeling? What do you see? What do you say? We have onsides or offsides coming your way next. It's great to meet you. My name is Marc Ryan, in for Zach Gelb on the Zach Gelb Show here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Now it's time for a sports update with Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flag.
All right, Mark, college football. Brent Venables has signed a new contract. It'll be a 6-year deal, and the Oklahoma Board of Regents says the agreement has a total value of over $51 million. Oklahoma went 10-3 last season in their final year in the Big 12. Venables has a 16-10 overall record in his 2 seasons in Norman. NHL, the Stanley Cup Final continues tonight. Panthers at Oilers. Edmonton is looking to force a Game 7 after being down 3-0 in the series. Evander Kane is a game-time decision for the Oilers. He's missed the last 3 games with an undisclosed injury. NBA, Sun center Drew Eubanks is declining his $2.6 million player option. Just 1 baseball game in progress. The Mets jumped all over Shota Imanaga early. The leading Rookie of the Year candidate was tagged for 10 runs on 11 hits in 3+ innings of work before getting pulled. The Mets lead the Cubs 11-1 in the 7th inning. JD Martinez, 4 runs batted in this contest. Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. Tom Kim is your leader. He's at 13 under and holds a 2-stroke lead. Colin Morikawa, Akshay Bhatia, Xander Schauffele, and Sung Jae Im round out the top 5. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is @INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Fun continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
Marc Ryan in for Zach Gelb, the Zach Gelb Show, the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Hey, with Wendy's $3 English muffin deal, you don't just get breakfast, you get a proper meal. Get your choice of a sausage or bacon, egg and cheese English muffin sandwich with small seasoned potatoes. Grab yours today. Terms apply. This weekend, NASCAR heads to New Hampshire for the USA Today 301. A different driver has won each of the last 7 races as Chase Elliott leads the standings with Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin nipping at his heels. That's in New Hampshire this weekend, home of Sister Ryan. The beautiful state of New Hampshire. Great to have you guys with us on the all-new Infinity Sports Network, the Zach Gelb Show. Here's how you guys can take part. You can give us a call at 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. On Twitter at INF Sportsnet. You can get to me on Twitter at Marc Ryan On Air. That's at MARC Ryan On Air. Facebook.com/INF Sportsnet. Listen live, InfinitySportsNet.com. So You guys know that I've recently moved from Odyssey Station, the Fan Upstate in the Carolinas, to Odyssey Station 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit. When I was in the Carolinas, the name of my show was Offsides. Offsides with Marc Ryan. We would do a segment on the show called Onside or Offsides. And lo and behold, here we go, deja vu all over again. Onsides or Offsides, the Zach Gelb Show. Let's get right into it, my friends. What do we got?
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All right, Mr. Ryan. So hopefully this onside offside is as effective and as fun as your onside offside from your old show. So we'll do our best. We'll do our best. We'll start with number 1. Bryce Young, obviously we know was the first overall pick last year, but struggled while watching number 2 pick C.J. Stroud thrive in Houston. Well, there are high hopes for Young this year in Carolina, and his wide receiver Adam Thielen expects him to take a big leap forward.
You can tell Bryce's demeanor in the building. He's just more comfortable, right? Like, I look back to last year, those first 2 weeks of Chase, he wasn't even there yet. He was still not even on a team yet. He was not, the draft hasn't gone on yet. So I'm thinking back to that, like, now he's there. Now we're getting routes on air. We're around each other. That's tough as a rookie quarterback. Come in, you're already behind the 8 ball, learning the playbook, learning your players. And then it's like, again, like, take that month off, you get away from each other, maybe we get together quickly for a day or two. And then it's like the ground's running, boom, like training camp. Like, it's been a really cool offseason to see how he's just come back with, okay, like, I got urgency, I got confidence, I have comfortability in the system, in the facility, in the locker room, and what that does for a player.
That courtesy of the Rich Eisen Show, Onside, Offside. You believe Young will have a big bounce-back season.
Man, I'm going to tell you, Michael, I don't want to be Switzerland here on the fence. I'm going to go offsides, and I'm going to say offsides because I haven't seen first overall pick stuff from Bryce Young. You know, if you didn't look at the name and you didn't look at the school he played for and you just looked at the player, guys, there's a reason that Kyler Murray's the only guy under 6 feet tall that was ever drafted 1-1 overall at the quarterback position, and it's because he's Speedy Gonzalez in terms of his playmaking ability. Bryce Young is not the biggest stature. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He's a good kid. He's a great leader. I covered him closely last year in the Carolinas. You know, the Carolina Panthers really panthered that draft pick, and folks in Houston thought they were screwed. They caught a Hail Mary that cost them the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Remember how badly that hurt the Jets, falling from Trevor Lawrence to Zach Wilson? Well, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because the player that should have been taken number 1, as you well know, C.J. Stroud, I think Bryce Young's ceiling is essentially Baker Mayfield. So I'm going to say offsides to a big bounce-back season. By the way, Michael, what say you? Big bounce-back season, yes or no?
You know, it can't be much worse. New coaching staff. Canales seems like he's got things under control. Like when I hear him in press conferences, he just sounds confident. He sounds sure of himself. And so hopefully, and he's an offensive guy, so hopefully he can kind of help Bryce Young figure it out. It can't be worse than last year. To Thielen's point, listen, rookie quarterbacks, it's never easy. I think C.J. Stroud was the exception to the rule. It's hard to compare the two when Bryce struggled so early. He has the talent. You're right about the size, but as long as he doesn't get hurt, the size shouldn't matter that much as long as he can see over the line. That's the other question. But if he can see over the line, he doesn't get hurt, he should be good enough to be able to succeed in the NFL. Big bounce-back season, I'm going to go offside for now, but he definitely is going to be much better, I think.
Man, I'm going offsides as well. We will soon see how this all shakes out. Next up.
Now, the Arizona Cardinals, we talked about Kyler Murray just a second ago. They hope to have Murray back for the entire season after he missed 15 games over the past 2 years. Now, after drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th pick, Kyler has high expectations for this offense.
that takes us to another level. When you got a guy out there that is capable of, winning one-on-ones, obviously he's got to go do it. And, he knows that. We all know it. When he does what he does, I fully expect our offense to be, top of the league.
Top of the league. Onside, offside. The Cardinals will be a top 10 offense in the NFL this year.
Well, look, man, I'll tell you what. Top 10 offense in the league. You consider where they were a season ago outside the top half. Do they take a big enough step up? It's not out of the realm of possibility. They have a defensive head coach. I was a believer in Kyler Murray, but I've been so disappointed in generally his attitude. So until further notice, you got to prove me wrong, right? And I hope you do. I root for people, not against people, right? But I've been burned once on Kyler Murray already. No until further notice, offsides.
Offside. Now, the Clippers signed Ty Lue to an extension and added Jeff Van Gundy to the staff. But reports say the team is not comfortable meeting Paul George's contract demands, while another report says the Sixers' interest in the All-Star guard is waning as well. So onside, offside, Paul George can be a number 2 on a title contender.
Guys, I promise you I'm not a Karen. I'm not a Debbie Downer. I'm not a Brandon. I promise you that, okay? I'm offsides on all of these thus far. Here's what happens in the NBA. We tend to fall in love with names and not games. Oh, we added Kevin Durant. Yeah, what's he got left? We added Carmelo Anthony. Really? I mean, we continue to do this. We get excited about names, and we think that it means we're headed for, delusions of grandeur. And it never works out that way. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard morphed into the most toxic, elitist, spoiled environment in the NBA where these guys are never available. What's the best ability? Availability. When I got asked to do this show today, how long do you think it took me to say yes? Availability. Reliability. Yeah, you got to know your stuff. You got to be good, right? But availability is key. They're never available. So, like Paul George can collect his $50 million a year plus. Who would feel comfortable meeting his demands? He's all name, he's no game. If this was the Wendy's commercial, they'd be saying, "Where's the beef?" Offsides for Paul George.
Now, after the college football playoff voted to expand from 4 teams to 12 that will debut this season, the NCAA is now in talks about possibly expanding the NCAA basketball tournament from 68 teams to either 72 or 76. Onside, offside, you are fine with the NCAA tournament expanding to either 72 or 76 teams.
Who wrote these that's making me seem like the most negative person on earth?
I try to get into your skin, so I wrote them intentionally to have offsides on all of them.
I'm convinced, Michael. I'm convinced that's what you did. I owe you guys 2 things every time I do a show. Okay, I owe you guys 2 things. Number 1, work as hard as I can on the show. You'll always get that. Number 2, to be honest with you, I can't put lipstick on this pig. When are we going to understand in sports that less isn't always more? This is not just an offsides. This is not just a no. This is a hell no. The best thing that college basketball could do for the sport would not be to expand the tournament. It'd be to contract it. Why? Because while March Madness is the best singular tournament in sports, in no way, shape, or form does the regular season matter. We don't even pay attention until the tournament begins. And it's gotten to the point where, even here on the network, the tournament itself doesn't generate a massive buzz anymore. It's a great couple of weeks. Everybody does brackets. It's fun, but it's more of a novelty than it is a sport that many people truly care about over the course of the regular season. I learned a very valuable lesson in my college days, guys. I once tried to date 2 girls at the same time. I thought I was the man. I didn't cheat. They knew about each other, but I was doing the Matt Stafford thing. I wasn't committing, right? It was the biggest nightmare in my life. It was the most drama-filled thing in my life. What did I learn? I learned that less is more. Less is more. Contract the thing to 48 teams. What that will do is it'll make the regular season matter again. 72 or 76 teams. The hell out of here with that.
Offside.
That was as hell of a no as I've ever heard on onside, offside. Now, the last one, Oklahoma Sooners were consistent playoff contenders with Lincoln Riley as head coach, but once he left for USC, they brought in former Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables to take over. Now, in 2 years in Norman, Venables is 16-10 overall, thanks to a 10-3 season last year. Today, the Sooners gave Venables a new 6-year extension after back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. Currently, they rank 7th in recruiting on 24/7 Sports. So onside, offsides, the Sooners can win a national title with Brent Venables as their head coach.
Yes, Michael, you did it, my friend. This is onside. Yes, they can win a national championship with Brent Venables. He's got the right pedigree, having coached under Dabo Swinney. I will tell you guys this true story. I was at the Clemson Media Olympics a couple years ago, and I beat Brent Venables in Pop-A-Shot. This is my claim to fame, right? Very, very proud of this fact. Might be the only athletic achievement I ever have. But he is the right man for the right culture. He's been there before. They have a very tall task in the SEC. So what you're seeing is the SEC, the Big Ten, trying to strong-arm the playoff committee into guaranteed bids. Why? Because with all these new teams, they know it's going to be very difficult to go 12-0, 11-1, 10-2. Oklahoma could get into the postseason. I think he's got a lot of mo there. His energy is incredibly infectious, and I think Oklahoma is national championship bound in the 2020s under Brent Venables. Hell of a dude, hell of a person, hell of a head coach. There you go. Onsides or offsides. I had 5 there, folks. How did I bat? 800? 1,000? Worse than that? Better than that? Up next, I think it would be a hell of an idea for the NFL. It just involves our willingness to share. So are we willing to do so? Can we make that happen? My name is Marc Ryan. Great to have you with us on the Zach Gelb Show, the all-new Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Marc Ryan in for Zach Gelb on the Zach Gelb Show here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Awesome to have you guys with us. Happy Friday. You guys ready for a fun hour, man? Coming up in this hour, success for the NFL on a new frontier hinges on one word, sharing. Are we willing to do it? I can't for the life of me explain this most embarrassing sports stat, plus the biggest proposed change that we've seen to MLB in our lifetime. What to make of it, all in this hour. Again, 855-212-4227 is the number. Big news, of course, J.J. Redick, the next coach of the NBA Lakers. And this is totally an NBA Lakers thing to do, right? No experience, all sizzle, very little steak. Look, guys, I like JJ. You know, I like him. I've shared with you the story that I met him when he was a high school senior. Met him again when I was in media in Orlando as a rookie in Orlando, and he was a rookie for the Orlando Magic. I also once ticked off Stan Van Gundy about J.J. Redick. I was covering a game where the team couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. J.J. was a rookie, all-time leading three-point shooter in college basketball history. Doesn't take him off the bench. And the team shot like 13% from three in a game. And I asked him in a press conference, yeah, I was this guy. I asked him in a press conference if he, maybe the wording of this could have been better. Stan, did you ever consider possibly putting in the best three-point shooter in the history of college basketball, considering your team couldn't throw it in the ocean? It was one of those questions, guys, where the coach gets up and leaves the press conference, and then you have media people around you giving you the stink eye because they didn't get to ask him their question. I don't apologize for it. So play the kid. He's smart. He's good. He's great. He's had an incredible career. in the National Basketball Association, right? One that played for a number of teams, one he could be very, very proud of. But, to me, this is as big a risk as you could ever make, right? It's the LeBron James move. LeBron James gets what he wants. Since 1990, there's only been 13 NBA head coaches that had no coaching experience whatsoever. 55% of hires since 1990 had NBA head coaching experience. 55%. JJ has no coaching experience at all. You've heard of jumping one level. JJ Redick jumped every level. And he arguably landed the most prestigious job in all of basketball. It's incredible. So the question for you guys at 855-212-4227, that's 855-212-4227 is this move going to be successful? What would make it successful? My worry is that it gets off on the wrong foot, because I don't think there's any way that a LeBron James-led Lakers team is winning the championship. They were a play-in team this year. LeBron is getting worse. He's not getting better. Okay? LeBron James is 6 months younger than their head coach. Think about it. LeBron James is best friends with the head coach. Think about that. Is it possible? Can your boss be a best friend? I mean, I was analyzing this today. I've been blessed, and this is not just me kissing up, but I've got good bosses here at the network. I've good bosses locally, both in the Carolinas and here. I have a good relationship with those guys. But can a boss ever really be a friend? I've always said, you should have a healthy fear of your father, right? Not like true fear, like you're worried he's going to do harm to you, but you have a fear of disappointing your dad. Right? Like a healthy fear. I think Alabama was so successful in part because they had a healthy fear of Nick Saban. When your boss is your best buddy, your boss is like Canada. You're not afraid of them at all. Okay? So is that going to work? Is JJ really calling the shots, or is the tail wagging the dog, as they say in LeBron James? If it works out in Los Angeles, it'll be because of what? To me, if they work out, it'll mean that J.J. Redick and LeBron James really gel. They gel. It's synergy. They've got this unbelievable chemistry overnight. And yeah, they're buddies, and yeah, they're boys. If that works, it's because J.J. put together a great staff with experience surrounding him. But, guys, we've seen that before. Steve Nash had no experience, hired Mike D'Antoni, Jacques Vaughn, Ime Udoka. Didn't work. They had just a single playoff series win in 2 seasons, leading a team that had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So, there's a lot of concern here. This was obviously the most risky move they could make, and they made it because the only tie to relevancy they have is an aging LeBron, and LeBron James wanted it. He wanted it. If it doesn't work, it'll be because of what? If it doesn't work, my opinion, it'll be because of JJ's inexperience combined with the Lakers' dysfunction. And I think that could prove to be far too much to overcome, especially for a new and rookie head coach in the NBA. I love his confidence. I love his cockiness. I think he's very LA. They think they've got the next Pat Riley. You can see the comparisons, right? GQ, very smooth, very convincing, great salesman, understands the game. Can J.J. Redick motivate players? I don't know. I have no idea. Can J.J. Redick speak the language of today's player to connect with them and to motivate them? I have no idea. I think he's got a shot. He was a recent player, right? Can J.J. Redick keep his cool enough to be successful? I don't know. He's blocked some of my friends on social media for not being personal, for just being critical. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. If you're asking me today, is J.J. Redick going to be successful? I think early on the answer is going to be unequivocally no. Because the only definition of success when you're the coach of L.A. is to win championships. That's it. I don't think this team is capable of that. George Karl said it best. J.J. Redick is bringing shrewd coaching insights to the Lakers and a proven track record from his years as an assistant and head coach at all levels of the sports. The sarcasm is dripping off of George Karl. You know it. I know it. We all know it. We all can see it. We all can sense it. My friends, this is a problem. This is a big problem. And it's an issue that the Lakers are going to have to fight hard to overcome. We've got a clip here from Anthony Irwin, who says, will the Lakers players have an issue with J.J. Redick? How will he command their respect when J.J. Redick was just a peer of theirs? This was heard right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Hilariously, J.J. Redick left Anthony Davis all of his all-NBA defense teams this year. so that'll make for an interesting first question, I would imagine, or one of the first questions that he'll probably get in that presser, like, hey, what was going on there? So I think there were some concerns I've heard. There were some whispers that there were some players kind of wondering, like, are we sure? Like, and there are some concerns that
And
JJ will basically.
I know people say there's whispers about that. There's really only two players in the Lakers roster that matter. So LeBron's good with that. Means Anthony Davis isn't maybe necessarily all good with this hire.
Yeah, I will neither confirm nor deny. I'm also not told that it's anything that can't be figured out, and I'm told that Davis is going into this with an open mind.
Well, he does have an open mind. What other choice does he have? Only two coaches of the 13 that have been hired with no coaching experience since 1990 have worked out. Just two. Steve Kerr, Larry Bird, and that's it. The rest of the rundown reads like the island of misfit toys. Steve Nash, Brooklyn Nets. Derek Fisher, Knicks, no playoff appearances. Jason Kidd, now much better with the Mavericks, not so much with the Nets. Marc Jackson, there always seems to be a better candidate available, right? Isaiah Thomas. Doc Rivers seems to be on everyone's hit list today for his failure to execute when it matters the most. ML Carr, Quinn Buckner, Dan Issel, all hired because they were players assumed to have knowledge of how the NBA works. You know what they say about people who assume, make an ass out of you and me. We haven't seen that happen. We haven't seen it work. 2 out of 13 have worked. This is a very, very, very rare move that the Lakers are making. Can it be successful? What do you say? 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. A buddy of mine in this business who got a job at a time when I didn't have one said, Mark, I want you to think about this. It's all about finding somebody who will love you. That's it, right? You find somebody who loves you in your personal life, you have a wife. You find somebody who loves you in your professional life, you have a job. It's just about finding one person who loves you, okay? That person for J.J. Redick is LeBron James. You know, you want to get a job with the L.A. Lakers, you want to be their head coach, convince LeBron James to join your podcast, Old Man and the Three. Develop a relationship with him. Get LeBron James in your corner. After all, LeBron James is the one pulling all the strings here anyway, right? He's gotten not one. This is LeBron. Remember LeBron, not one. How many championships? Not one, not two, not three. How many coaches have you gotten fired, LeBron? Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, six. 6 head coaches. Paul Silas fired by LeBron in 2004. Brennan Malone fired by the Cavs despite having an 18-8 record at the time. Mike Brown led the Cavs to a finals appearance in 60-win seasons. Sacked by LeBron James. David Blatt landed flat with LeBron. Couldn't even hide his total disrespect for one of the best coaches in Europe. LeBron James doesn't do Europe unless it's soccer. No respect whatsoever. Luke Walton, rest in peace to his dad, but not so much a great head coach. And then Frank Vogel. All he did wrong was not kiss up to LeBron James. And how about this? Like, how did we land in an environment today in the National Basketball Association where the players have power over the stars, where if you don't kiss the star's backside, you're going to soon be out of a job? That's where we are. If I was running an NBA team, I would say this guy, my head coach, commands all of your respect. Do not come to me if you've got a problem with him, okay? He has ultimate authority. If you don't like it, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. We'll see you. Coach over player. But that's not the lay of the land in today's NBA. Is J.J. Redick really going to be a head coach? Is he going to be willing to bust LeBron James in the chops when LeBron James needs to be busted in the chops? And I know LeBron James has this public persona. He's done a lot of good work for charity. But guys, like, he has left a trail of death in his wake of head coaches who he just didn't like. Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue are the only coaches he has ever worked with that have escaped the LeBron axe. Be wary of that. Be very wary of that. This honeymoon between J.J. Redick and LeBron could be over overnight. And if not, they sure as heck don't have the talent at this juncture to do anything in the Western Conference whatsoever. Can J.J. Redick be the guy long-term? Perhaps. But they're going to have to press the reset button. I mean, think of how every other team in the NBA has the Lakers by the throat. They know that LeBron wants to play with his son. What do? You draft Bronny James. You then extort the Lakers for draft picks so you can to give them up to him. Extort them. Easiest plan ever. Easiest plan ever. I'll tell you what, one thing, this is going to be very, very interesting, and we're not going to be able to keep our eyes off of it. All right, up next on the show, their success has already been cemented, but further growth can happen if they're willing to do this one thing. I'll tell you what that is, what we're talking about next. My name is Marc Ryan. Great to have you with us here on the all-new Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're in the right place. The Infinity Sports Network.
Marc Ryan, right here with you on the Zach Gelb Show, the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Hope you guys are having an awesome Friday, man. So this, to me, is fascinating. And it just involves the S word from us, the sharing word. Look, one time on a report card when I was a kid, I got an N for needs improvement in sharing. So I'd like that teacher to know I've come a long way when I share this with you. The NFL, in my opinion, is the one sport where having a team or a division over in Europe not only could work, it could thrive. I mean, think about the logistics of this for a minute. You can't do that in the NBA. You play in Memphis one night, game gets over at 11:30 p.m. You got to play in Utah the next night. How are you going to do that with overseas games? Are you going to travel overseas for a week or 2 weeks at a time and then have 4 days off before you get back, get over jet lag, etc., before you're able to play again? Doesn't work. Same in baseball. 2-game series, 3-game series. Doesn't work. Even when you have a day off in Major League Baseball, it's 1 day. 1 day off. You're gonna play over a week overseas in Europe. Have 1 day off, expected to come back and play the very, very next day. You lost 8 hours. How does it make any sense? In the NFL, this could work. This could work. And it could work because what you do, You play 8 road games a year or 9, right? So if you have, for example, let's say you play the NFL European Division, which would mean you have 3 road games in Europe, or you play 3 teams in Europe, maybe 2 road games. You go over there one time. Yep, you're over there for 2 weeks. You play all the games there. What about if you're one of the teams in an NFL Europe division? Well, 6 of your 17 games would be in your own division. You have 11 games outside of that. Let's say 6 of them are road games. You come over to the States 3 times during the year. You knock out 2 games each time you come over. Okay? You're here for 2 weeks, 3 different times. Boom. Never been better. This is viable, and it works because you only play 1 game a week. Guys, the question is, are we willing to sign on to, are we willing to share of ourselves, of our crown jewel, of our pride and joy? 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. Roger Goodell has his league playing more international games this season than ever before. How do you feel when we have one of those European games? I think it's pretty cool. You got football at 9:30 a.m. There is not a window of the day without a game. You got the 9:30 a.m. game, you got the 1 p.m. game, 4 p.m. game, 7:30 p.m. game. Never been better. You can watch football on Sunday from 9:30 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. You know, it's not like the World Cup where sometimes they're playing in countries where you got to get up at 3 a.m. just to see the game. These are on at 9:30 a.m. It's beautiful. The only thing that it involves for us is being willing to lend our pride and joy. And it most certainly is our pride and joy. Last year, of the top 100 American television broadcasts in the country, 97 were NFL games. 97. I'm not just talking about sports. I'm talking about any broadcast. There was 1 political show, there was 1 awards show, and there was the Macy's Day Parade. Everything else was the National Football League. It's never been more popular than it is right now. So I ask you, my friends, are you down with this? A team in Europe, a division in Europe. Roger Goodell himself was asked about this recently in a stopover in London. He did a Q&A with some dignitaries there and some fans. And if you think, Marc Ryan, you're talking about something that's a pipe dream, listen here to what Roger Goodell says. Read between the lines, and I think you might come to the same realization I do. It's not a matter of if, it's simply a matter of when.
Yeah, I've always said this. There's no question that London could support not just 1 franchise, I think 2 franchises. I really believe that. And that's from a fan perspective, from a commercial standpoint, from a media standpoint. That is undoubtedly, I think you've all proven that, and thank you for that.
So we've got Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we've got Wembley, we've got games alternating between Munich and Frankfurt. We used to ask for a franchise. Can we please have a division?
That's part of what we're doing, right? We're trying to sort of see, could you have multiple locations in Europe where you could have an NFL franchise? Because it would be easier as a division.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Wow.
You hear that? They're looking at it, folks. And they're at least as serious as Major League Baseball is at looking into robo-umps by experimenting in the minor leagues. The mayor of London, quote, "We have several American football games, and I wanted to come here because we want American sports fans in Europe to come to London to watch them, not just go to America. The Super Bowl is really important for us." They want the Super Bowl in London. Can you imagine how un-American some people would say it is to give Europe our Super Bowl, to have the Super Bowl hosted over there? Well, you might shake your head no at that, but I think the Super Bowl is coming to pay-per-view at some point. Are you not going to spend $99.99 to see the Super Bowl? Really? I think you would. So the question is, are you willing to give of yourself to have a division over in Europe? We'll take your calls, 855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227 is the number. I get the feeling I'm in the minority here. That's okay. Like Green Day said, I want to be the minority. I'm totally down with it. I'm totally into it. I totally accept it. I think it would be fascinating. And you don't care about world domination, but I do. You know, the soccer athletes, the Ronaldos of the world, the Messis of the world, are infinitely more popular than any player in the NFL in the United States. NBA players, LeBron is far more popular than Patrick Mahomes is or anyone else in the NFL. You start expanding this overseas, you start to make the NFL a global game. Well, Marc Ryan, who are they going to draft? They'll draft our college kids, just like any other NFL team does. You mean to tell me I get to be 22 years old and I get to go live in Europe? Where do I sign up? With money? I get to go live in Europe as a 22-year-old kid? I'm in. Completely in. The other thing that it could do is it could give rise to college football, our football, programs being played over there. You know, colleges beginning to start teams and conferences just like we have here. I think it would be incredible. Michael Samter, are you down with this? An NFL team in Europe full-time, perhaps an NFL division in Europe full-time. To me, in order to make it work, you almost have to do the division format. Otherwise, you got one team going to and fro far too often. What do you say? An NFL Europe division?
Oh, I'm so into it. I lived in Europe for a little bit, so I'm all things international.
Did you? Where'd you live?
I lived in London, and I traveled through Europe afterwards. I was in London for about 5 months. I worked for a soccer club that is actually in the Premier League now, but wasn't when I worked for them. They're called Brentford. And I love all things international sport. I think it's fantastic. I would love to see it. You think about a flight to London's about 6 hours, especially on like a private jet, maybe even less if you're heading on the way there. A flight to LA is 4.5, 5 hours. So it's not like it's significantly different when you're talking about the flight differences. Now, obviously, you know, if you're a West Coast team or you're the Arizona Cardinals, it's a little bit different, but there's ways to get through it. And it's a huge fan base. They love football. It's growing there. There's a ton of Americans who live in England especially, but Germany. I mean, they had NFL Europe, and there's like 3 of the NFL Europe teams. I think 3 or 4 of them were in Germany. So there's a ton of interest there, and I think it would just be really fun. And like you said, I love waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning and watching football.
Man, I do. I love it as well. I'm so glad you said that, but I'm going to tell you, Michael, you and I are very, very much in the minority here. I mean, at least that's what I'm gathering. So who would get a team in Europe? Let's say you have a division, NFL Europe division over there, which would mean now you go from 32 teams to 36 teams, which would mean now you add 4 teams to the States, which would also mean, guess what? Now what can you do? You can have 16 teams make the playoffs out of 40 teams. That roughly keeps the same ratio of playoff teams that you have right now. Then you also get rid of the stupid bye, which is way too much of an advantage to the number 1 seed. At least it's no longer 2 seeds in each conference getting the dumb bye, but it's still 1. So you add 4 teams there, you add 4 teams here. You maybe look at giving Canada a team, Mexico City, right? You look at giving San Diego their team back that it should have never been stricken from them, right? You add 4 more teams here. You add 16 playoff teams out of 40 teams in the league. Don't tell me there's not enough talent. Don't tell me it's going to water down the NFL. It's not going to water down the NFL. So who should get a team? Here's my vote. Berlin, London, Madrid, and Rome. There are certainly arguments to be made there. Frankfurt had an NFL Europe team way back when. Barcelona could be heard from. But I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, like, where would it really have a chance to catch on? Where would it really have a chance to be successful? In my mind, those are the 4. I'm telling you guys, it would be an out-and-out blast. It would be a blast. It would be so intriguing to watch our sport, how our sport is infiltrating their sport. It would be awesome to watch how confused they would be. What is the real football after all anymore? Ours or theirs? And I think just like football here has grown on us like a fungus, where like when I was a wee lad, the World Series got very, very similar television ratings to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has left it in the dust. Absolutely, positively left it in the dust over the last years. Wouldn't it be fun to see that? Wouldn't it be fun to see an NFL team in Europe build itself from the ground up? I mean, brother, I would sign up for that. The question is, would you? 1-855-212-4227. That's 855-212-4227. Up next on the show, it might be the most embarrassing sports stat ever. That, my friends, is next. My name is Marc Ryan on the Zach Gelb Show. Now it's time for a sports update with Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flag.
All right, Marc, NBA notes another party in the city of Boston as they celebrate the Celtics' 18th title, and Drew Holiday told Brian Scalabrine before the celebrations that he recalls TD Garden as the opponent.
You know, it could be a little bit intimidating. Fans could really get crazy, really start to fight you and all that, but I'm glad I'm on this side now.
This Celtics title sets the mark for the most championships in league history. The runner-up to the Sixth Man of the Year award has a new contract. Malik Monk and the Sacramento Kings have agreed to a 4-year deal worth $78 million. The deal also includes a player option. The Stanley Cup Final continues tonight. The Panthers are looking to finally put the Oilers away. They held a 3-0 lead at one point in this series. Now they look to avoid going into a Game 7. Evander Kane is a game-time decision for Edmonton. College football, Oklahoma and Brett Venables have reportedly agreed to a new 6-year contract. The 53-year-old is 16-10 in 2 seasons in Norman and secured a top 10 recruiting class as the school transitions into the SEC. Baseball, the Mets jump on Shota Imanaga early and cruise to an 11-1 win over the Cubs. Travelers Championship, Round 2 suspended. Tom Kim is the leader at 13 under. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
Hey sports fans, it's JR from the JR Sport Brief. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're in the right place. The Infinity Sports Network.
Marc Ryan here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. Awesome to have you guys with us. It is time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. John in Los Angeles asks us, do we like the hire of J.J. Redick for the Los Angeles Lakers? What a loaded question that is, man. I like it in terms of fun. I like it in terms of intrigue. I dislike it because I don't think it's fair, and I typically root for what's fair. I dislike it because I don't know how much it was earned. But I will be watching, and I'll be watching eagerly. If you need to appease LeBron to keep LeBron, I suppose you have to do this deal with the devil. And so on that sense, I can also tell you, having met JJ personally, having followed him and watched his career, I like who he is. I think he's a genius basketball mind, and I can't wait to see him in action. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. My friends, this has got to be the most embarrassing sports statistic of all time. All right? And I can't quite figure out why everyone's rooting against them, but that's exactly what we're seeing. That's exactly where we are. Canada has not won the Stanley Cup. They have not won the Stanley Cup in 31 years. Now, to put this into proper context for you, what makes this just so insane, all right, is the fact that they've got 7 teams. There's 32 teams in the league. 32 divided by 7, carry the 1, drop the 2, there you go. You should win a championship every 4.6 years. Okay? So in 31 years, they should have 6 to 7 championships. They have not a single one. Do you realize that the odds of Canada not having a single Stanley Cup in 31 years is 0.6%? 0.6%. What gives? You know, the highest likelihood there would be here, let's see, a 70% chance that they would win over the last 31 years between 3 and 6 championships. 70% chance that would be the number, between 3 and 6. Settle. There's a greater chance over the last 31 years that with 7 teams, they'd win 10 or more championships than there would be that they have won the 0 that they have right now. This has got to be the most embarrassing, humiliating stat in the history of sports. You know, imagine you run a pizza shop. You're proud of your pizza. You enter a pizza-making competition. You finish in last place, and a bunch of people who beat you don't even have a restaurant. Okay? They just make pizza at home. Their pizza's better than yours. That's how it's got to feel to Canada to not be able to win a single Stanley Cup. I've never seen anything like this. I've never heard of anything like this. Now that I'm living and working in Detroit, what really gets me is so many people here are kind of have the screw Canada mentality. They don't want Canada to win anything. I don't get it. They're nice people up there. They're harmless people up there. Nobody is afraid of them. They couldn't hurt a fly. You know, we probably cause Canadians far more stress than they cause us. As a matter of fact, I know that to be true. What have they done wrong? You know, what have they done wrong? Not a damn thing. And yet this team, this country, cannot get over the hump to save their lives. Here they are tonight, Game 6, Stanley Cup Final, Edmonton and Florida. Edmonton was down 3-0. They've now crawled back to 3-2. Game 6 tonight in Edmonton. Brother, I'm telling you, I'm jacked to see it. I'm jacked to see it. I can't wait to see if they're able to force a Game 7. 9 times in NHL history has a team down 0-3 been able to force a Game 7. 9 times. Channeling my inner Edward Rooney from Ferris Bueller. 4 times they've come all the way back to win it. All right? Is this the 5th? Edmonton's got to win 2 more games. You get the sense and you wonder if all of Canada is rooting for Edmonton. If Edmonton has, in effect, become the national team right now. But can I ask you this? What are your theories for why we've seen this just total ineptitude for a country and their national sport? You know, whenever we stink at soccer, and I always say that the one title that could make me run naked through the streets of Detroit, nobody needs to see that, nobody wants to see that, would be a U.S. men's World Cup title. You know as well as I do, I'm never going to see that. You're never going to see that. It doesn't matter how old or young you are, you're never going to see that. But if they did happen, I wouldn't be able to contain my joy, my excitement. When you guys tell me why we don't succeed at soccer, it's because, in your words, we don't care. We care about football, we're the best at football. We care about basketball, we're the best at basketball most of the time. Whenever I try to tell you guys that we're no longer the best at baseball because we don't win the World Baseball Classic, even though it's always held here, you tell me, well, we didn't really care that much about the tournament. This is their sport. This is their only sport. They get smoked by Argentina last night in Copa America 2-0. Okay? The CFL is largely considered a joke. This is their sport. This is what they do. If it's not Kawhi Leonard bringing them an NBA championship or the Blue Jays winning them a very, very rare World Series, this is the sport that brings them pride, and they can't win. So what are the theories? Could it be that Canadian fans are not demanding enough? They support their teams even if they don't win. It piggybacks on how kind they are, how nice they are. Could it be that Canadian teams can't or won't bottom out because every loss up there is given crisis-level attention? Oh, dear God, we took the L. Could it be that it's a conspiracy that is the reason why Canada's not winning the Stanley Cup? They haven't won since 1993. You know what else happened in 1993? Gary Bettman became commissioner. He's in his 28th full season on the job. Canada's 0 for 31. Connect the dots, folks. Could it be that could it be economically based, right? Barely surviving. They're overspent by American markets. They introduced a hard cap in 2005 that helps, but the playing field isn't level. And if you're not in Montreal or Toronto, the Canadian teams, it's still felt, are at a disadvantage, right? They take more of your tax money. Players maybe don't want to go there. Players don't want to play there. You heard James Wisniewski on this show earlier in the show say that he played for Montreal for a year. 50% of his money was gone before he even began. Gone to Texas. He said everybody says the health care is free, and he's like, it's not free. We're paying through the nose for taxes. Okay? Could it be that Canada's not winning the Stanley Cup because they really have dug their heels in on a style of play? We're going to be tough. We're going to be rugged. We're going to be physical. And maybe like the skill position players getting to dance around and do their thing is where the Stars want to play today. Maybe that style isn't good. Maybe that style is like trying to run the triple option in college football today. Right? Could it be that it's just all bad luck? I don't believe in coincidences. I believe there's more to it than that. I had a shirt when I was a kid, a no fear shirt. It said, luck is the residue of preparation. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in bad luck, right? I don't believe that bad luck prevents you from winning 1 year, not 31 years. So, look, we've got listeners here on the Infinity Sports Network in Ontario, Canada. I get calls from Canada here in Detroit. Canada's 30 minutes away from where I live in Detroit. By the way, when I moved here, I was 2 months ago years old when I learned that Canada was 30 minutes away from where I was moving to in Detroit. Never knew that before. I don't know, maybe I failed geography or something, man. It doesn't make any sense. I'm rooting for Canada because I think they're a good people. I think they're a kind people. I think they're a collection of people who deserves to have some good things happen to them. But this thing, it's their sport. They've got, 23% of the league. That they haven't won their own sport in 31 years has got to be single-handedly the most baffling stat I've ever heard in the history of my existence. And I'm trying my best to figure out the why there. Every single year they begin the season with a 20% chance to win the cup, and they never do. This isn't Canada against the USA. If this is the Olympics, ladies and gentlemen, by all means, root for the red, white, and blue. These are league teams that are dominated by American players that go there. And because they can't get free agents, because the taxes are higher, because they might have a style of play that people don't like or people don't want to take part in, they cannot get over the hump. So when you watch the Stanley Cup final tonight, Game 6, Panthers-Oilers, watch with a very keen eye and decide who you're rooting for. Because you have the storied history and tradition of the NHL in the Edmonton Oilers. And they are playing a market, all right? They are playing a market that has about as much tie culturally to hockey as I do to sushi, which is to say none at all. And incidentally, I hate sushi. Please never serve that to me. I will never find that appetizing. I will never find that good. You know how people tell you sometimes, Mark, it's not that I don't get soccer. I just don't like soccer. It's not that I don't get sushi or I've never had sushi. I think it sucks. I think it's awful. Get it off my plate. Thank you very much. The world may never know. It's like how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. The world may never know how in the hell that the sport of hockey has not seen a Stanley Cup championship in Canada in 31 years. But, Canada, you have this American rooting for you. I'm rooting for you big time. And I'm hoping you can force a Game 7. Happened 4 times, And then you've got the whole thing, why did it happen once in baseball but never again? In the NBA, the best team always wins. There's very little room with that length of series for massive upsets to happen. I thought if one was ever going to happen this year, Dallas-Boston was as good a chance of any. Boston had the star power. But the vast majority of the time, if you're down 0-3, there's a reason you're down 0-3. You're not as good. Hockey seems to be more luck-based, the puck bouncing a certain way, right? Edmonton, they've got the firepower. I truly do think and believe that they have figured something out, and I can't wait to watch this, man. Can't wait to watch it. As is always the case, my friends, thank you so very, very much for an incredibly fun Friday show. I will be back on right here tomorrow, the Infinity Sports Network, from 5 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Invite you to check that show out. Big thanks to Zach, David Marinick, Michael Samter, Ryan Botcher for the opportunity. Ryan Hickey in for JR is coming your way next on JR Sports Brief right here on the all-new Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break.